Student success in post-secondary education is greatly increased when parents have high expectations that post-secondary education is an option for their children. When parents see their young adults as capable, the young adults will see themselves as capable. Although there may be some challenges along the way, college is becoming more accessible for students with disabilities. With the help of Section 504 services, as well as new innovative college programs focused on students with disabilities being offered by universities, college is now becoming a reality for a greater range of students. Students with disabilities who want to go on to post-secondary education programs, such as vocational and career school, 2- and 4-year colleges, and universities, need to be well informed about their rights and responsibilities under Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 and the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Being well informed will help ensure that the students have a full opportunity to enjoy the benefits of post-secondary education without confusion or delay. Once a student leaves public school, there are no special education programs or IEP protections available. However, with the help of Section 504 accommodations and supports, students can have high expectations about achieving success in college. Many students who have had either an IEP or a Section 504 plan in school will qualify for Section 504 protections in college. What are colleges, universities, and other post-secondary programs required to do for students with disabilities? All post-secondary programs receiving any federal funding are prohibited by Section 504 from discriminating on the basis of disability. All courses and programs, including extracurricular activities, must be accessible to students with disabilities. In addition, all buildings constructed after 1977 must be physically accessible as specified in the Americans with Disabilities Act. Appropriate accommodations that allow the student to access the course material must be provided. A few examples of accommodations are electronic books, recording devices, interpreters, and extended time to take tests. Accommodations are always based on the individual student's needs. The accommodation helps the student to do the same coursework as all other students, and requirements are not lowered or substantially modified. In post-secondary education, it is up to the student to arrange for the access and to make sure that all the course requirements are fulfilled. Being able to self-disclose one's disability is a vital skill for college students who want accommodations. If a student chooses not to disclose the disability, he or she will be treated as all other students and will not be eligible for the protection under Section 504. It helps to teach students early that Section 504 simply makes it possible for the student to access information in the course. It is also important for them to understand that it is up to them to complete the coursework, and there is no other way for the college to guarantee success. High school students and their parents should plan ahead and investigate the post-secondary programs they are interested in to find out how the school's disability support services work. Students can contact the Disability Resource Center of the program to learn the specifics about what they need for documentation and other policies of the college. During 11th and 12th grade is a good time to do this. What can students do to prepare for success when they go to college? A good place to start is for the students to learn in high school what accommodations work for them. Students should have enough practice to become proficient with the accommodations. Successful use of accommodations in high school gives the student the confidence and skills for making the accommodations work on the college level. Some accommodations used in high school are not available in college, so it is helpful to find out which accommodations will be appropriate in a particular program. The college's Disability Resource Center will be able to provide information on what is appropriate. It is important to note that policies may vary from course to course and from college to college. Students at the post-secondary level need to understand and be able to effectively explain their strengths and needs and the accommodations that will help them access the programs. Remember that a student in college will no longer have a parent at the table to do the talking. Participating in, or even better, leading the IEP meeting or Section 504 meeting in high school is a good preparation for self-advocacy in college. Also, just a reminder that the better the student is equipped with what are called soft skills, such as being on time, completing work, study skills, time management, social skills, and managing stress, the easier college will be. These are skills that should be taught and practiced at home and at school throughout the student's school years. Students wanting to request accommodations should work with the Disability Resource Center at their college or program. Documentation of the disability will be needed. Stephen Lewis from the Disability Resource Center at Salt Lake Community College shares a few insights about the documentation needed to receive ADA Section 504 services in college.
Colleges and post-secondary institutions are bound by the ADA to provide accommodations to individuals with disabilities. You can qualify by having a history of disability, being treated as an individual with a disability, or having an obvious disability. We'll take your documentation and look at the limitations imposed by the disability, and then we'll provide accommodations to address those limitations. Utilizing your 504 and IDEA accommodations in your K through 12 educational experience will qualify you under the ADA as an individual that has been regarded as a person with a disability, and that's one of the three ways, if you don't have a formal diagnosis or an obvious disability. Once you provide the documentation to us, we take the limitations and we look at your classes and compare what sort of accommodations we can have in certain classes. Essential functions of the class are paramount in colleges and post-secondary education. Under the ADA, we don't water down or limit the essential functions of the course. What we do is we provide accommodations to put you on a level playing field with the rest of the people in the course. And we have a myriad of accommodations that come down the pike. Now, as far as your documentation goes, IEPs are very helpful, especially if they have a diagnosed disability on them. But even if not, and you were treated as an individual with a disability under an IEP, we would go ahead and serve you similarly as we could, depending on the classes, so that we don't water down the essential functions of the courses. The ADA is primarily about access to everything in a readily available manner to individuals with disabilities. So we have a number of different things that we can do for you, for folks. We have adaptive equipment like Kurzweil and Dragon Natural Speak that can help you with your reading and writing. And we can implement those with exams, when you're writing your papers, myriad of different ways. Success comes from the student. You still have to perform to the essential functions of the course, as I mentioned earlier. So kind of in summary, the earlier you get started, the better off your post-secondary institution can help you get the proper documentation. If you get started at 9th, 10th grade and you don't have the proper documentation, our transition advisor and our advisors here in the department can help you get that documentation over the next couple of years while you're still in high school. It's never too early to start.
Remember that Disability Resource Center policies and procedures may vary somewhat from college to college. Let's hear about some personal experiences using accommodations in a college and university setting.
When I think back to my years at the University of Utah, there are both happy and sad moments. When I first started there, it was a real struggle. Those things that you do in high school to get by weren't working anymore, and I didn't know what to do. I was eventually evaluated and found out that I had ADD and dyslexia, which for me was probably the best news I had heard in a long time, which might sound weird, but for me, it was finally, no, you're not stupid, you learn differently. And through getting that diagnosis, I was able to get myself set up with a Disability Resource Center at the U and get some accommodations that made me really successful in school. I had previously been on academic probation and was on my way out when I went to the Disability Resource Center, and they talked through a bunch of different accommodations that I could get, like note-taking or extra time on test. And the thing that I really latched onto was just getting some extra time on my test that was really difficult material, like math and science. I am not a fan of math, and so if I can get 5 minutes extra on a test to work through those really difficult problems, I will take it. One of the most important things that I found was when it came to disclosing with my teachers, it was really great to go on the first day of class and just make them aware of my situation, but also say, I only will use that accommodation if I feel that I need it. I always have been a person that has pushed themselves hard, and so I didn't want to take the easy way out and just rely on that accommodation. I pushed myself to not have to use it, but in those circumstances where having a little bit of extra time to process those really hard questions, it made all the difference in the world. So don't be afraid to use those accommodations. They can really mean the difference between success and failure. And like I said, I went from academic probation to having a degree in communications and graduating from the U.
Remember that learning to use accommodations in high school helps students to use accommodations successfully as they transition to college.
All right, so my name is Kurt Manwaring. I am 24 years old. I'm an entering senior at the University of Utah studying political science, and I am completely blind, have been since birth. It's a genetic condition, and because of that, I rely heavily on accommodations to help me succeed in the college environment. When I first met with my disability services counselor, advisor, they needed an eye doctor's signature saying I am in fact blind, the doctor's note. They also needed letters from the special education teachers of the visually impaired I worked with in high school, showing that yes, my disability is actually legitimate. I think the worst thing you could do as a parent and as a prospective student is to come into your intake appointment not prepared with those things. There's no reason to add any extra holdups in that process. So my main accommodations that I use are electronic copies of textbooks. In some cases I've had to do Braille textbooks. I take my exams on the computer. A lot of the reason I'm able to succeed in college and actually be able to compete on a more or less level playing field with everyone else is my parents from a very young age taught me how to advocate for myself as much as possible. But as I got older, my parents made a point of starting in junior high, gradually increasing until I was in high school, turning the IEP meetings more over to me. In college, I've learned it's much more of a proactive process. You have to specifically ask for and lobby and advocate for the accommodations you need.
With planning and preparation, students with disabilities can have a more successful college experience with the successful use of Section 504 accommodations. We hope this brief overview has been helpful. For more detailed information, please visit the Utah Parent Center website or call the Utah Parent Center to speak with one of our parent consultants.